The Nintendo Switch lineup for the rest of 2020 is, well, drier than a Sahara desert right now, with Paper Mario being the only game we know coming from Nintendo in the year of 2020. Rumors of a potential July Nintendo Direct have started to sprout online. I'm pretty sure Spawnwave talked about them last week, but yesterday an interesting tweet went up from an alleged insider regarding some big Nintendo Switch plans for the rest of 2020. I would have covered it yesterday, but I was still celebrating my birthday with a live stream with you guys, so if you missed it, liking this video and sharing it can be your birthday gift to me. Thank you in advance. Now, this information is coming to us from a Twitter account named New Marco Marco, and honestly, I'd never heard of this dude. After looking into his track record, I saw some things that I liked that he was correct about, and some things that missed the mark. But the things that they were right about really made me curious. They correctly predicted the Wonderful 101 coming to the Nintendo Switch, which wasn't really a well-kept secret. The Character 5 in the Super Smash Bros. DLC would be from a popular RPG franchise, which of course ended up being Byleth from Fire Emblem. And the most interesting thing was that they correctly predicted Pokemon Mystery Dungeon coming to the Nintendo Switch. Now, this came out of left field for a lot of people, and nobody really expected Pokemon Mystery Dungeon to come to the Switch. Basically, I'm not saying all of this is gospel, it's simply just a rumor. But there's lots of interesting information in these alleged leaks that I want to go over with you guys and let you guys know if I think these things are real or if they are fake. So sit back, relax, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and let's talk about the potential Nintendo outline for the rest of 2020 when it comes to the Switch. So this information is basically spread out over 3 different tweets. I will go over each of the pieces of information and tell you guys whether I think this is real or fake. They basically start things off that new info before July is over is going to come, and that Nintendo will give an update soon about what is coming to the Nintendo Switch in late Q3 and Q4. Now, really, this isn't a prediction, this isn't a rumor, this isn't a leak, it's pretty much just common sense at this point in time. Nintendo obviously has to talk about something unless they don't plan on releasing any more games in 2020, which, you know, I mean, they're a video game company. They have to talk about games that are coming out in 2020. So really, this is just sort of a moot point. It's just kind of pointless to even say, but it does sort of coincide with the new Nintendo Direct rumors that have been sort of floating around out there about a potential July Nintendo Direct. Now, personally, I haven't heard anything about a July Nintendo Direct. I'm still sort of expecting it to be more of an August thing. Obviously, with Paper Mario coming out in July, Nintendo can simply talk about a game for the month of August or September without having to do a Nintendo Direct, much like they did with Paper Mario. So I'm not expecting a Nintendo Direct in the month of July. I haven't heard anything about a Nintendo Direct in the month of July beyond the rumors that are out there, but it does seem interesting that now this is sort of starting to gain traction. The next thing that they said was that besides Paper Mario the Origami King, Intelligent Systems has at least 2 more games in development for 2021. Now, of course, Intelligent Systems is known for a bunch of different franchises, mainly things like Fire Emblem, Paper Mario, and the WarioWare franchise. Now, WarioWare is something that New Marco Marco has actually been saying a lot when it comes to Nintendo Switch related stuff, but of course we haven't seen any sort of WarioWare stuff come out on the Nintendo Switch. So whenever people try to discredit this individual, that's one of the things they point to, and I think that's definitely a very fair point. But on the other hand, I do think a WarioWare game does sort of make sense for the Nintendo Switch when you look at how the system is built, with of course things like a gyrometer built into the system. You have the Joy-Cons. There's a ton of different stuff you can do with the WarioWare franchise on the Nintendo Switch, make a proper entry into the WarioWare franchise on the system just due to the hardware of it. Of course, you also have the Nintendo Switch Lite, which might sort of throw a monkey wrench into things. Now, as far as Intelligent Systems having 2 Nintendo Switch games for 2021, I kind of don't believe that. Intelligent Systems has definitely slowed down game production over the past few years. They used to release a couple different games a year, but since 2016, they've only released 1 game each year. In 2016, they released Paper Mario Color Splash. In 2017, you had Fire Emblem Heroes, which they were involved in, but really their main game was Fire Emblem Echoes. 2018, you had WarioWare Gold for the Nintendo 3DS. 2019, you had Fire Emblem Three Houses, and then of course this year you have Paper Mario the Origami King. Now, like I said, they used to do multiple games, but that was when Nintendo had handheld systems, and obviously it's easier to develop a game for a handheld system that's not an HD system than it is to do something like the Nintendo Switch. So I don't think you're going to see 2 Intelligent Systems games in 2021 based on this rumor. I think one is definitely a bit of a safer bet. The next bit of information is that No More Heroes 3 is coming in Q1 of 2021, and that No More Heroes 1 and 2 are coming to the Nintendo Switch as well. I don't know how I feel about this. I think that No More Heroes 3 still has a chance to be a 2020 release. Obviously, Suda51 sort of showed off the game a little bit at the New Game Plus event, and the game was obviously running. You know, I feel like this game has been in development for long enough to be a potential 2020 release. I guess if you say quarter 2021, you're just sort of covering yourself in case that the game doesn't come out. And No More Heroes 1 and 2 coming to the Nintendo Switch, I'm not sure how I feel about that either. I haven't heard anything about that. Obviously, those games were designed with the Wii in mind and then brought over to the PlayStation 3. So I guess you could sort of take the PlayStation 3 version of the game and maybe build upon that as far as the graphics are concerned. But I feel like that's just such a larger project to bring both of those games over to the Nintendo Switch that I do have some doubts about it. Next up, they say that Metroid will be a good way to start 2021. And no, unless this individual is talking about a potential 2D Metroid that has been heavily rumored. Of course, we got Metroid Samus Returns on the 3DS. That was the last time we've seen Samus on a Nintendo platform. I could sort of see that being a thing. There have been some rumors about another Metroid game in development alongside of Metroid Prime 4, something to sort of whet people's appetites. Could it potentially be the Metroid Prime HD Trilogy collection? Like, there's a lot of stuff that goes into that. I'm sort of assuming that this individual is referring to Metroid Prime 4 as being a good way to start out 2021, and I don't see Metroid Prime 4 being a 2021 release, at least an early 2021 release. Maybe towards the tail end of the year, you have a better chance of seeing it. Could this be an offshoot Metroid game? I think that's a better probability. Pokemon Snap has an internal date at the moment of November 20th, 2020, and I think that's a safe bet. I think Pokemon Snap 2 will be a Nintendo Switch game that does release in 2020. I think that's why they showed it off already during the latest Pokemon event. Well, the second latest Pokemon event, I guess you would say. And I think that's going to be a big hit this holiday season. It's a game that people are going to want to play. People are going to want to buy. People have nostalgia for that N64 game. I know I sure as hell do. So I'm really looking forward to Pokemon Snap 2. And I think a lot of people are expecting this to be a 2020 release, and a November release sounds about spot on for what I believe it would be. Next up, they say that since Pikmin 3's original plans are messed up, they plan to reveal everything at the same time. Yes, multiple surprises about Pikmin are coming. Of course, this is something that we have heard for many, many months now. Pikmin 3 was being ported from the Nintendo Wii U over to the Nintendo Switch. Pikmin 4 has been in development for quite a while. Maybe it's nearing completion. So could there be some Pikmin stuff this year? Honestly, I don't know, and really, I don't care because I'm just not a Pikmin fan. Like, don't get mad at me or anything like that. There's just some games I don't like, and Pikmin, for whatever reason, was just a game that never resonated with me. So if there's Pikmin stuff coming, that's cool. I haven't heard any Pikmin stuff, but then again, I haven't really been going out of my way to learn about any Pikmin stuff. And the final pieces of information are as follows. Nintendo will start being very aggressive with the Nintendo Switch after September 11th, and that's just a very specific date. Obviously, Nintendo is going to be aggressive from September onwards with the Nintendo Switch, just like Sony is going to be aggressive with the PlayStation 5, and Xbox is going to be aggressive with the Xbox Series X. Once again, that's just sort of a random point in my opinion. Most Mario games as big hits on September and November for the Nintendo Switch. Now, of course, that is something that we have heard a lot about. Of course, Super Mario 3D World coming to the Nintendo Switch, Super Mario 64, Super Mario Galaxy, and Super Mario Sunshine. It is Mario's 35th anniversary. Many people are expecting this to be some of the big stuff for the Nintendo Switch when it comes to holiday of 2020, and I'm definitely one of those people. I've heard about Super Mario games for the Nintendo Switch for the 35th anniversary so much. Now, whether or not they're going to be full-on remakes of games, you know, that's sort of up in the air. Obviously, 3D World is just going to be a simplified port from the Wii U with maybe some added content. Super Mario 64 is really the big mystery game. Is it just going to be an HD version of Super Mario 64? Are they going to add content into that as well? But this is something that I think everyone has heard by now. We, of course, have been talking about it for a few months now on the channel, so I think that's a very safe bet. Bravely Default 2 will be a late September game coming to the Nintendo Switch from Square Enix. Of course, Bravely Default 2 does have a 2020 release window. I think that sort of makes sense. You know, I think this game is further along in development than many people realize. Square Enix has been very successful on the Nintendo Switch thus far, so I definitely think this is going to be on track for a 2020 release. I think that this game is pretty far in development from what we've seen and what we've heard about things, so I think that's a pretty safe bet. And the final thing is, you will know about Zelda before the summer is over. Now, the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 is a game that a lot of people are hopeful is a 2020 release. I've sort of jumped off that bandwagon. Everything I've sort of been hearing about this game is now sort of a 2021 release date when it comes to the latest game in the Zelda franchise. There is that whole thing floating around the internet that just happened earlier this morning about some Spanish voice announcers who were doing the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2, basically breaking NDAs in an interview and talking about how they've done voice work for the game. Some people are saying that the voice work for the Spanish version of the game, or the Spanish dub of the game, is done. Some people are saying that it is a simple mistranslation, but these individuals are working on the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 dub for the Spanish audience. So I don't know about that. You know, if it all depends on when the game is scheduled to come out, I feel. I personally feel like Nintendo isn't going to talk about this game again until it's about 6 months away from release or something like that, because really it would just sort of be a tease when it comes to things like that. When you look at things like Bayonetta 3, Metroid Prime 4, people are still clamoring over information on these games, and yet we're not getting information on these games, and people are sort of getting tired from the lack of information. And I feel like Breath of the Wild 2 would just be that much crazier. Of course, we learned about the game last year, and then it's been radio silent since, and I think that's sort of a smart way to do things. If you're going to release this game in 2021, is there really a point in talking about the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 over the summer? Now, of course, this is definitely up to interpretation. They could just release a little gameplay trailer and then just sort of whet your appetite for it and then say sometime in 2021. But is that really satisfying at this point in time? With so many mysteries about Nintendo Switch games for the rest of 2020, do you really want to learn about a Nintendo Switch game that's coming out in 2021, or would you rather wait and learn about the games that are coming out in 2020, and then closer to next year we learn about the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild? Alright, so that's going to wrap up the latest leaks that are circling around the Nintendo Switch from this individual named New Marco Marco. Now, like I said, don't take this as gospel. Take it with a grain of salt, just like any sort of rumor or potential leak, because really, you never know. Everything is changing in the video game industry. It's constantly shifting. Games are getting delayed. Like, look at Crysis. Crysis was supposed to be unveiled and then come out at the end of July, and then all of a sudden, right before the unveiling, you're like, hey, we're going to delay this game. And it's like, you haven't even really announced the date of the game yet. Technically, it just leaked. So obviously, the video game industry is always changing. Like I've said over some of these items that we talked about in this video, some things I think are definitely true, some things I disagree with and I don't think are going to necessarily be true. But I want to know what you guys think of all of this stuff. So let me know in the comment section down below if you're believing some of these leaks, if you think some of these leaks are fake. Obviously, sometimes leakers put out some false information within their leaks so that way it can be tracked back to who is actually leaking the information. So it's definitely a risky business, but it's just something I thought would be fun to talk about on the channel today. So let me know what you think of everything in the comment section down below. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. Be sure to check out other videos on the channel as well. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.